Welcome back, guys. Today I'm excited to talk about the number one, my absolute go-to muscle. The muscle that I'm proud to call my favorite one to train. And that's the triceps. Today I want to run through the subjects of why I think it's great, different variations and exercises that really helped me throughout the years. I want to do a small introduction of the anatomy of the muscle, and finally some tips to really think about for an optimal and effective applied adaptation to your triceps training as well. Before I deep dive into the sea of my thoughts and opinions on the tricep subject, I want to shortly share and introduce our upcoming Southwest Aesthetic project. As a lot of you may know, especially those of you that have been following the journey of Southwest Aesthetics on Instagram since a couple of years back, Southwest has in the past just been an entertainment project, an account where we have posted both training footage with a mix of comedic mixture. Lately we in the Southwest team have grown the interest to really expand and grow into something more, something bigger, a company. But you gotta start somewhere, right? That's also why we want to expand our ideas and also start off with a continuing my series ACEtalks on our common on this channel right here. Will be some content with me, some content with us together, and a lot of new things that you haven't seen before. Can't wait. Now, on to the matter of this video, the triceps. First of all, the triceps, or anatomically titled triceps brachii, is a three-headed muscle that involves a lateral, medial and long head in the posterior side of the arm itself. These heads originate from their respective attachments on the humerus and scapula and insert via a common tendon on the ulna. For those of you that aren't that familiar with these anatomical terms, the humerus being the long bone that runs from the shoulder down to the elbow, and ulna being the bone between the elbow and the wrist on the pinky side of your forearm. And the main function of the triceps is to extend the forearm at the elbow joint. One cause and even mistake I see at many rookies out there when training the triceps is overdoing this function. Extending way too much, hyperextension really. This is not necessary. Another thing that a lot of people need to take more into consideration is also the angle of the elbow in relation to your shoulder flexion. But I will get into this in the end of this video. Why is the triceps so superior then? Well, superior is maybe a stretch, but I see it as superior of other muscles in the arm as the biceps or forearm muscles, because it has so much value and meaning to your general functionality. Because it's such a big part as well in your, let's say, chest or shoulder training. I mean, some of the tricep muscle stretches all its way up through the shoulders. That's also why you will get a pump or feel activation in your tricep long head, for example when you do a exercise like the cable pullover when training the back. And I can tell you this, I haven't progressed as much as I did in lifts like the overhead press or the bench press or some other lifts like that as when I really up my game for my triceps. They do so much work, man. And though this is a big valuable component to lifts like this is also why my bench maybe isn't as big as it could be at the moment. because this is quite wrong, but I almost bench as much with a close grip as I do with my ordinary bench. Throughout the years, my ordinary bench has gone up a lot since I actually realized this, but the triceps is still, and to be fair, will be quite dominant for a long time. It's always been like this. Same goes for my OHP. I talked about this in a previous video where I mentioned my theory that my triceps is taking over in the overhead press, that I needed and also wanted to focus a lot more on my shoulder strength to even it out in the future. But even if I said that the triceps has so much value and is so rich in functionality, it's no different from almost every muscle in the human body. Every muscle is like this. Every muscle has its own unique way for function, value and stability when it comes to your training. Don't forget that. That's a lot of why I think it's great and why I train it as well. But it all comes down to personal sensation for me too, guys. It's a lot just because I freaking love to train triceps. There's no feeling like it. The pump and contraction, the squeeze at the bottom extension at the AMRAP pushdown set. Wow. It's incomparable, really. I mean, a lot of guys out there speak the same about things like chest, biceps, even quads. And I still agree with those guys, but for me, the triceps is at a league of its own. Now, onto some exercise and variations. I really want to get this out there. Compound lifts, guys. Train compound lifts. I mean, triceps has always been my favorite muscle to train. It just has. I've been obsessed with training triceps almost. I just love it so much. And it's not that I've been only training arms and nothing else during the years. I really haven't. But when it comes down to the tricep, the holy trinity of the arm, I always want to perfect them, to really go all in when it comes to this muscle, both in hypertrophy and strength. A lot of my early years I went through some crazy volume when it came to the triceps, and I saw how great results I got, so I just kept going. And overall my genetics isn't that great, but when it comes to muscles like the back or the triceps, they're not that bad. As I said, some movements that really evolved my triceps training was really adding more and focusing more on compound tricep lifts. I want to highlight 3 lifts here that I think is both kind of underrated or not even used that much and should be perceived as hidden gems when it comes to development of the triceps. These are the incline narrow grip bench press, the GM press, named after GM Blakely himself, and the French press, especially the straight bar French press. I mean, these did so much for me, especially when the intensity was kind of high as well. I mean, my triceps has always been kind of defined and always been a big part of my training. And this was a lot due to volume and my more bodybuilding approach back in the day, but what really exploded and birthed these puppies of mine was the heavy lifts being performed with a tricep focused variation, as mentioned lifts. A lot of other exercises and variations as the OHP, dips and all the higher volume stuff like the tricep pushdowns, skull crushers and even the unilateral work has been tremendously great too, but when it came to really peaking off to the next step, it was the heavier stuff. But I do think it's important to involve both of these, the isolations and the compound lifts, to really get the most out of everything. But then again, the compounds will do a lot more for your overall strength, so if that's your target, it will be more beneficial to pull more focus on that. Last but not least, it's not about just the grip. It's a lot about the angle itself of the elbow to the overhead. Okay, yeah, of course the grip width will determine whether and how much tricep activation will happen. The more narrower grip being more tricep focused, but you don't either wanna go too narrow because that could be damaging for your joints. But I think it's really important to analyze the angle of the elbow within a movement. When we train the tricep muscle, we want to include movements for all three heads of the triceps: the long head, the lateral head, and the medial head. With this, you'd want one movement that you perform, let's say, overhead. You could perform one with the arms down at your sides, and one either behind your body, or just quite frankly a unilateral movement as well. And depending on my block or training momentarily, I also want to include some pressing movements like dips, JM press, or just a standard narrow grip bench press. You can really sculpture and build a mass on your triceps with the isolation movements, but don't neglect the compounds, guys. I could talk about this all day. Maybe I will make a continuous talk on this another time, but I think I will wrap it up as for today. I appreciate you watching today's talk. Hit that like button. Have a good day, and we see you next time. Sponsored by Alfa Romeo.
L'Oreal, 'cause you're worth it.